Let us start again, like implants. We had discussed the contraindications and indications, sorry, absolute and relative contraindications in the previous session of implants. Let us continue it further. What exactly happens when we are taking implant as a prosthetic option into consideration? Okay, see, this is my edentulous portion. If suppose I have a tooth here, I have a tooth here, and I want to place an implant at this level. Okay, when I am viewing that extraction site occlusally, this implant will have a diameter. Okay, and when we are talking about implant in the basal bone, implant will have a height, or you can say length. Okay, it will occupy some space in the basal bone three-dimensionally, which is involving length, width, and height. Okay, this part is diameter, this is your height. This diameter is dependent on the mesiodistal distance between the two teeth, and this height or length is dependent upon the amount of basal bone present along with the structures which are present in the basal bone. There are few considerations when we talk about implants, like we say diameter. If we take first into consideration, the minimum diameter, important MCQ, minimum diameter to replace a single missing tooth, like single missing tooth replacement, SMTR. Okay, minimum diameter I'll just write it clearly, even I cannot read this writing, I'm really sorry. Okay, minimum diameter, I can write clearly, that's not a problem. Minimum diameter for single missing tooth replacement. Okay, single missing tooth replacement is 3.0 millimeters. See, many companies are making implants worldwide. Okay, so what happens is they are making of different diameters. Somebody is making 3, 3.1, 3.2, and they have their own patents of design. If somebody has registered 3.75 or 3.8, the other guy will make 3.85 or 3.9 or 3.6, but he cannot make 3.75 and so on. So, but still there is a, you can say the challenge has been to cover up the tooth basically. Okay, so minimum diameter to replace a missing tooth is 3.0. This is the minimum. If suppose your option is 3, 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, mark this. If suppose option is 3.5, 1, 2, 3, mark 3.1. Mark the lowest which is closest to 3.0. Okay, don't mark 3.5 here. 3.1 is the lowest and is acceptable. If it also includes 2.9, 3.1, 3.2, or say I have options like 3.2, 2.9, 3.5, 4.0, mark this being the lowest and closest, but has to be 3. See, minimum means it will be 3 or more minimum in the options. Okay, just apply your brains nicely at the time of such MCQs. Then you have minimum diameter for replacement of a molar. It's 3.75 millimeters. Okay, that is the minimum. 3.0 can replace 1.2, lower 1.2, and also can replace the extraction site or the site which has got a congenitally missing lateral. See, an extraction of lateral and a congenitally missing lateral both will have a difference in the width of bone available. A congenitally missing lateral will be allowing us a lesser width as compared to an extraction socket of lateral incisor. So 3.0 can be used there. 3.75 is molar. See, it is not you will be using 3.75. If I have 4.5, 5, and if my bone allows, it is good, I can use it. Okay, to understand these diameters, I'll just give you one numerical which has been coming on and off in last 7-8 years. Many a times this has come question. Okay, suppose a question says this is my mandible, this is my 4, this is my 7, 8 is my impacted. Okay, question says you have missing 5 and 6. Okay, 3, 5 and 3, 6 are missing. We want to replace these 3, 5 and 3, 6 with implants of two implants of equal diameter. Okay, the distance between 4 and 3, 7 is given as 14 millimeters. 14 millimeters means one implant I will be having here, one implant I will be having Okay, I'll just use an one implant we have here. Okay, this distance is 14 millimeters, 14 millimeters, and we have to calculate the diameter of these two implants. For this, you have to understand one thing, one important fact, that if at all I am placing an implant, my implant should have three-dimensionally 1.5 millimeter of basal bone. 1.5 millimeter of basal bone should be present all around the implant. It means this should be 1.5, this will have 1.5, this will be 1.5, and this will be 1.5. Okay, basically like this. This implant will have 1.5 and this implant will also have 1.5 on either side three-dimensionally. Okay, so what becomes is 1.5, 2, 3, 1.5 into 4 is the basal bone between the tooth and the implant distances. So this becomes 6 mm, 14 minus 6 becomes 8. Since we have two implants, answer become 4 mm. So diameter will be 4 mm. Sometimes they give you question like they give you this mesiodistal width. Sometimes they give you question like you have two equal diameter implant 5 to be placed in such a region, and you have to calculate the mesiodistal width of the edentulous span. Answer becomes simple, 5 plus 5 plus 6, 16. Okay, just remember that. If it would have been a single tooth, then answer would have been 1.5 plus 5 plus 1.5. Answer will be 8 mm. Okay, so this you have to understand, and based on this many questions are being asked. Question number 1 is minimum distance between implant and natural tooth, 1.5 mm. Minimum distance between two implants, 1.5 plus 1.5, 3 millimeters. Minimum distance between implant and vital structures, okay, like one is sinus floor, one is inferior alveolar nerve, inferior alveolar nerve canal, or you say mandibular canal. Then you have mental foramen. Sinus floor, it's 1 mm, inferior alveolar nerve canal, it's 2 mm, inferior alveolar nerve, it's 3 mm. See, there is a canal and the nerve is there in between. So if this is your implant, this distance is 2, this distance is 3. Okay. Mental foramen, it's 5. It's 5 mm. See, when this mandibular canal comes, it ascends upwards. So you don't know exactly where your nerve will be. So if you are seeing mental foramen here, you have to be sure somewhere the nerve might be here. So you keep a safe distance from that nerve, and the distance from the foramen on radiograph or CT scan is calculated as 5 millimeters from the mental foramen. Okay. So these are important MCQs which have to be taken, remembered for your exams. Next comes is the parts of an implant. See, I am taking a endosseous threaded implant which has got threads. Okay, the top surface is like this. The inner portion is hollow actually. The inner portion is hollow. Okay, it is hollow. Inner portion is hollow. This part which goes inside the bone is called fixture. This is called fixture, or we say implant. Fixture. Fixture has got a top surface which is open up called crest module. This is the body of the fixture and this is your apex. Okay. On top of this we attach one attachment called abutment, and on top of that abutment you get your crown. Okay, these are the parts of the implant. Abutment and implant are connected either by a screw or they are connected directly when they are cold welded. Okay, there are different designs of it. So let us discuss one very prominent thing which is important for your exams also, that is implant abutment interface. Okay, see, if this is my implant fixture, abutment will have to get locked somewhere inside this crest module, and then a screw passes through it and you tighten it. Okay, if this attachment is this connection or these two surfaces, the lower part of your abutment and the crest module of implant are meeting, where they are meeting is having a terminology. If they are meeting inside the bone, they are called internal connection, and if they are meeting outside, it is called external connection. Okay, usually the crest modules has top surface like this in the shape of a hexagon, we call hex. So the terminologies comes internal hex or we have external hex. Okay, but there are some other designs. They can be pentagon, they can be octagon, many designs different companies are making. A recent design in the paper which came was this. This is called a tri-channel connection. It is not a triangular, it is a triangular modification, triangular with a coving present at the three apeces of the triangle. Tri-channel connection. The brand name of the company is very popular, one of the world leaders. They are very popular in India also. Nobel Biocare Replace Select is their model of implant. Okay, the question came, Nobel Biocare Replace Select has got which connection, and they showed this picture. Answer is tri-channel connection. By the look of it, you can easily say this is also called as Mickey Mouse connection. I'm not very good at drawing, but you can look it at some point, it is looking like a Mickey Mouse. So this is also called as Mickey Mouse connection. Important part is the head of the Mickey Mouse always goes buccally and the chin always goes palatally or lingually. Okay, this is a very successful design. And even one more question in AIIMS SR shape came. Nobel Biocare Replace Select implant has got which surface? Yeah, Nobel Biocare has got which surface? Their surface name is called Ti-Unite surface. This has also appeared in the exam. Tri-channel has been appeared in the exam. Okay, so just remember there is one sort of a connection like this. Another important thing, say suppose I have a hexagon connection. My implant crest module is having top surface like this. Abutment will also have an hexagon. Abutment will also have an hexagon, and one hexagon will fit into the another. Important point to be understood is abutment, this is implant. If you want your abutment hexagon to fit into the implant hexagon, your abutment hexagon has to be slightly smaller than the implant hexagon. Okay, that cutting has to be a little small. If suppose I have two glasses of same diameter cylinder and you want one to fit into the another, it will not fit if they are of the same size. This one has to be slightly smaller to fit into this. Agreed? So this type of a connection, all the hex connections, tri-channel connections, all the you can say connections which we have been using in the past had one issue, that the abutment interface was slightly smaller than the implant crest module, which results in when the patient bites this small micro gaps. These are the small gaps present in 0.0 millimeters. This will attract pumping or sucking of saliva inside. When the patient will bite, saliva will go inside these small even gaps which are in 0.0 millimeters. And if the saliva goes in, then ultimately it will end up in having bacterial growth, which will end up in having failure of implant. Okay. So there was one more connection. The situation would have been better, I would say, if we have a connection between abutment and implant in such a way that both are of the same diameter. If you all have eaten ice cream into the another. If you all have eaten ice cream, I'm very sure you all have eaten it. I'm very sure you all have eaten it. If you all have eaten ice cream, especially an implant in such a way that both are of the same diameter, but still one fits into the another. If you all have eaten ice cream, I'm very sure you all have eaten it. If you all have eaten ice cream, especially softy, and you see stack of cones, ice cream vendor has got softy cones, okay, softy cones, he has a stack of cones which are, he's having standing like this, okay. The beauty of this arrangement is all the cones have same diameter, okay. All the cones have got same diameter. Still one cone fits into the another because the lower end is tapered. Such a same arrangement is available for abutment, and you have one fits into the, you have implant, okay. The diameter of this portion is same and still one fits into the or tapered connection. Another, this type of connection is called conical connection or tapered connection, or we have a better term called Morse taper connection, and this is the best implant abutment connection amongst all the possible we have, because it results in a tight locking of the abutment inside the implant, resulting in a situation like cold welding, and there is no micro gaps present between them, which has got a very high success rate amongst implants. Every implant company, even Noble, you can say brand name Noble, Biocare, Active implants come. Active means the threads are actively cutting inside the bone, okay. They have got this connection, and one oldest name is Ankylos. These two names are important. Even I name initially I told you Tixos. Os word is related to bone, you can understand. These have these Morse taper sorry connection, okay. Last thing is, when we cover, not last, suppose we have edentulous maxilla, edentulous mandible, okay, and I want to restore this mandible maxilla with the implants. There are two possibilities. Either we can give implant supported overdentures, or we can give implant supported bridges, okay. Which parameter will decide? So suppose I give you one situation, a 35-year-old patient comes and a 65-year-old patient comes completely edentulous due to XYZ reasons, both have extractions, okay. Which one you will give bridge and which one you will give denture? It's not related to age, it's only related to one parameter, that is inter-arch distance. If inter-arch distance is more, you will go for denture. If inter-arch distance is less or adequate, you will go for bridges. You can easily remember, if you have higher inter-arch distance, you cannot have such long teeth, okay. And if you have shorter inter-arch distance, then there will be no space for denture bases, okay. So denture bases will require some space, and denture bases will be given to those situations which have higher inter-arch distance. The average inter-arch distance of edentulous ridge is 40 millimeters, okay. The MCQ, this is given in your many MCQ books, it is wrong, it is written 40 centimeters. You can imagine one scale of 12 inches is 30 centimeters, so 40 centimeters become this, and you all can imagine a patient opening this much wide mouth in your clinic, okay. Another thing, say suppose usually asked in relation to a mandible. If this is our mandible, you have mental foramens either here present. Mental foramens usually beneath 5 or between 4 and 5, you are seeing more towards 5. Suppose we want to place implants, we want to make implants supported over denture, okay. Important one thing is, minimum you will place 2 implants in maxilla and mandible. Maximum there is no number actually. We can place 4 also, 5 also, 6 also. There are many situations available. Minimum is 2. Suppose I want to place 4 implants for implant supported over denture in mandible, then important parameter is all the 4 implants should come Usually we divide the mandible into two halves and two implants on either side are made parallel to each other. You cannot make all four parallel because mandible is considered as two bones, two half of bones fused together, but on either half you will make implants parallel to each other. Okay, important point to be understood, just remember from this diagram, all the four implants should be placed in between two mental foramen. Okay, in between two mental foramen, the term used is interforaminal region. You have to place, if you are making implants supported overdenture in mandible, all the implants, whether 2, 4, 6, you should try placing between the two mental foramens. There are 2-3 reasons. Number one reason is this is the most stable zone of mandible. Mandible is, the bone is good in quantity and quality here. Okay, you will get good dense bone. This we study in ortho also. This is the last part of the mandible which shows resorption, anterior symphysis region. Second is this zone has got no major anatomical landmark. There is no vessel, no nerve, nothing. So you can drill that bone very, very easily and comfortably. Okay. So these are the important parts, and this bone, the quality and quantity both are good, no anatomical landmarks. Then we have placed an implant, we have to go for prosthesis. There are impression material of choice, we all have read before also, it's polyether. If not, then you should use hydrophilized adhesion silicone, or if not written in the question, mark adhesion silicone. But this is preferred because this is true hydrophilic impression material, and it has got a very high tear strength. It has got second highest tear strength. Highest I have told you is of polysulfide. Okay, so impression material is this. If you make a single crown for implants, I have told you even the machine which we use is called as Pentamix for mixing polyether and adhesion silicone. Cement for cementation of crown, ideal cement is non-eugenol based, or you say eugenol free temporary cement. It's not GIC, not zinc phosphate, not resin cement. The best is non-eugenol based or eugenol free temporary cement is the ideal cement for cementation of crowns. Last thing is the bone densitometric classification given by Carl Misch. It is also called as Misch classification of bone, which says your bone is D1, D2, D3 or D4. D1 is a dense cortical bone with no signs of cancellous. It is, you can say, less dense cortical with good amount of cancellous. Poorly mineralized cortical, poor quality cancellous like trabeculae are sparsely placed. Trabeculae are sparsely placed. They are far away placed from one another. It is poor quality cancellous bone. Okay. Question comes, the best bone for implants, answer is D2. We need dense cortication, we need good cancellous also. Cortication is providing your primary stability, cancellous is providing your osteogenic potential, like we say, it helps in your osteointegration. Okay, osteointegration. Then comes the location of this. If we have, say, maxilla and mandible, this part, anterior symphysis will have D1, this will have D2, anterior maxilla will have D3, posterior maxilla will have D4. Okay, anterior mandible D1, D2, D3, D4. Okay, as you move like this, you are getting locations. Otherwise, physiologically, so this is present. Pathologically, there can be alteration. If suppose osteopetrosis is there, it will be D1 bone present anywhere in the mandible or maxilla showing signs of osteopetrosis. If a patient is having osteoporosis, then even anterior symphysis can show D3 or D4 quality bone present. Okay, just that's all for your implants. Hope you will be learning and answering all the questions possible from this. Thank you.